Liberty Nation. Truth is making a comeback.
Hi, Lisa K. Donner here with our weekly roundtable for LibertyNation.com. And we have with us today Scott D. Cosenza, our legal affairs editor, Sarah Cowgill, who hails from the Heartland and is our national correspondent, and, of course, the one and only Graham J. Noble, our chief political correspondent. Thanks for being here, guys.
Hey.
Hello, Lisa.
Well, this week was so darn crazy. I thought we would do something called crazy clips, and it's not hard to find those from the left. So we each have a crazy clip, and I would like to start with mine. Mine is from Florida Representative Ron DeSantis, just off his victory for the Republican gubernatorial primary. He went on he went on Fox and said the following. I hope voters don't monkey this up. And of course, his opponent happens to be a black. And everybody in the world is going nuts. So let's listen to the clip.
Ron DeSantis is going to be pitted against the Bernie Sanders-backed candidate.
Andrew Gillum.
In Florida, Andrew Gillum, right? And so we have the bite now where DeSantis used that word monkey. So I just want to play it. Allie, you comment after. And we also have comments from the DeSantis camp. Let's listen.
He is an articulate spokesman for those far left views, and he's a charismatic candidate. And, you know, I watched those Democrat debates. None of that was my cup of tea, but I mean, he performed better than the other people there. So we've got to work hard to make sure that we continue Florida going in a good direction. Let's build off the success we've had on Governor Scott. The last thing we need to do is to monkey this up by trying to embrace a socialist agenda with huge tax increases and bankrupting the state.
So, Allie, there has been backlash against Mr. DeSantis for using that word monkey. Your thoughts on what he meant?
I think it's racist to call him out for that. Obviously, that wasn't his intention. If that was his intention, he never would have said that publicly. So I think it's kind of a ridiculous accusation to point that out as bigoted or as pointed towards his opponent. He had just finished saying, you know, this is a worthy opponent that we're going to have to work hard to beat. I highly doubt that he intentionally meant to be demeaning by saying that, and I think it's way overblown to react in a negative way.
Well, let me just tell you, Allie, as an African-American man who's had racial terms used against him, I'm sure you're a nice person, but I don't really care whether you think it was racist. It was a racist term that was used. It's offensive. There are millions of African-Americans who've had to deal with this.
You honestly
and we're not
think that
gaslit.
he intended it that way?
How else do you intend saying, let's monkey around when the first African-American nominee for governor, when you're addressing that? I mean, how else do you use it? That's not just a dog whistle, that's a bullhorn.
So that was Michael Starr Hopkins on CNN. I love the way the host couldn't even remember the name of his opponent at the beginning. That struck me as really scary. But anyway, this guy took incredible offense, and all over the internet, DeSantis has been getting hammered all day. What say you all?
It's stupid. It's ridiculous. It's not racist. It's a word. It's monkey. It's monkey. Can't we monkey around? Can't we have a barrel full of monkeys? You know, come on. Seriously. He didn't mean it racist. If he was going to be racist, he probably would have kept his mouth shut.
Well, but he prefaced his comments by saying, look, this guy's a really good opponent. He's got a lot to say. He's running really hard. You know, we can't rest on our laurels. So if he was going to cut him up and make some kind of racist comment, that seems like an odd way to do it.
It's one thing that we need to learn in 2018, that when people of color allege racism, we have to believe them. And that's where I stand on this issue.
Meaning
that any allegation of racism has to be taken with 100%, credibility. That's what we're taught every day. That's, you know, if a person says something that a person of color doesn't like, that's probably racist, and that's what happened here. And I'm happy to call it out.
Okay, but I'm not sure all our viewers know that you're being sarcastic.
Well, enough. I think we'll figure it out.
Graham.
Heck,
Well-
I'm even trying to figure out what's going on with you, Scott.
Well, I have a little theory about this, and it's to do with psychology. First, I want to point out that Ron DeSantis can now kiss goodbye his dreams of having a sitcom on ABC. But, you know, my theory about this is that the left has become so ridiculously hypersensitive to language. And of course, this is about the progressive, the sinister Orwellian, and I'm not actually joking about that, progressive idea of restricting language to restrict freedom of thought. I actually believe that's a thing. But back to my little theory, what I think is that a lot of conservatives now, any conservative that has anything like a sense of humor, has now almost has a biological imperative now, an evolutionary imperative to slip something into the conversation that is going to trigger the left and send them into fits of outrage. And I think we can't help it. I mean, I do it on Twitter all the time. I've been suspended for it a couple of times. I just can't help it. I don't think for 1 second, to be perfectly honest, I don't think for 1 second that Ron DeSantis has a single racist bone in his body. However, I believe when he was doing that interview on Fox News, there was a little subliminal voice in the back of his head saying, "Say monkey, say monkey, say monkey." And he just came out. He couldn't help it. So that's my take on it.
Oh,
All right.
goodness.
Who wants to go next?
Whoever wants to be, dial it up. You tell us.
All right, Sarah, hit it.
Okay. Well, you know how much I love CNN, and you know how much I love Don Lemon. And now I have a new person to love, which is Abby Phillips, also a CNNer. And they got together this week and were discussing Antifa, and that Antifa really shouldn't be, you know, related to mainstream Democrats, which I don't know if there is such a thing as a mainstream Democrat anymore. And Don Lemon, of course, has to chime in and go so far as to say, you know, it's not a perfect organization, meaning Antifa, anti-fascist. And he went on to explain that they're fighting racists and fascists. And so maybe, you know, they should be given a little bit of leeway in overturning cars and burning things and throwing firecrackers and stink bombs at the police.
All right, let's run the clip.
It says it right in the name, Antifa, anti-fascism, which is what they were there fighting. Listen, there's, you know, no organization is perfect. There was some violence. No one condones the violence, but there were different reasons for Antifa and for these neo-Nazis to be there. One, racist fascists. The other group fighting racist fascists. There's a distinction there.
All righty, who wants to take that? Who wants to start with that one? Scott, since you're in the satirical mode, why don't I let you start with Don Lemon?
Well, they're both actually the same clip. If we go back to what Graham just said about the death of language and being truly Orwellian, this clip actually dovetails perfectly into that. And it's the use of the word fascist. The reason why that is because the Antifa movement are blatantly fascist or fascistic. And the Tea Partiers and much of the sort of Trump type folks are decidedly not fascist. The marriage of government and business and controlling business and thought is something that is desired by, they don't use the word fascist, but if you look at the express goals of the leaders of the quote unquote Antifa movement, that's what it is. It's a fascistic movement. So I take the point, Graham, in a week where we've seen Trump now say that he wants some kind of regulation, perhaps for Google or social media. I've been sounding the alarm since as long as I can remember that we need free speech so that everybody can speak freely. And it's truer now than it ever was.
Graham, your 2 cents.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously I totally agree with what Scott just said. I mean, it is such a ridiculous idea that this movement of thugs in their masks are going into the streets and beating people up and threatening people because they don't agree with their opinions, and then having the nerve to say that they are fighting fascism is, you know, you can make this stuff up. If someone put this into a movie, you know, I went to see it at the cinema, I'd be demanding my money back on the grounds that it was ridiculous.
Speaking of movies and cinema, did anybody happen to go see Death of a Nation yet?
It's not anywhere around middle of nowhere yet.
Oh, okay. Well, it's playing here in the D.C. area, and I believe Dinesh D'Souza does an amazing job talking about what real fascism is and where it came from. Just saying.
Let's hope he doesn't have to go to prison for making another effective movie.
Yeah. Okay, Graham, go ahead.
Well, I mean, and here's the thing. Is it only going to be conservatives that will go watch it? I think it should be shown in every prison and make people just watch it over and over and over again.
How about every classroom in America? Because it's real history. All right, Graham.
Yeah, except for they won't do that.
How about nowhere where it's compelled? Let me just be the.
You've got a really good one. I want you to go next.
Did you say me? Oh, sorry.
Not unless your name's Graham.
I didn't hear you. I apologize.
One of the hazards these days, if you are famous at all, if you are a you know, an athlete, sportsman, whatever you want to call it, a celebrity, anyone famous, you know, me. The one thing.
You almost got that past us.
Slip that one in.
Against these days is that if you do any kind of interview, somebody wants to basically corner you into saying something bad about the president. It's, you know, it doesn't matter who you are now. You have to. It's like you are obligated now to express your personal opinion about President Trump. So Tiger Woods was the latest famous person to find this out. He was interviewed just a couple of days ago, and they did the same gotcha move with him. And he very artfully replied that one should respect the office of president, which is interesting, of course, because for the whole 8 years of the last administration, that's all we heard when people would criticize Barack Obama. It was either you're a racist or, well, you have to respect the office of president. So Tiger Woods said this, and as a result of that, ESPN got very upset and virtually went into hysterics that he would have the nerve to say such a thing.
Okay, here's the clip.
I want to say something about what Tiger Woods said.
Okay,
now.
go ahead.
It really bothers me. I am angry at what Tiger Woods said because it is a thoughtless statement dressed up as a thoughtful statement. And it either holds in contempt the intelligence of the people who hear it, or else it's just a stupid thing to say. Let me tell you what I mean. If to say that the office, you must have respect for the office. Tiger, be clear. Are you saying that the office therefore confers respect onto its occupant, its present temporary occupant? No. Having respect for the office means, principally, in my view, is the office holder should have respect for the office. Well, we are all set to a standard. We're held to a standard of behavior. We at our jobs, right? People in their daily lives. The president, if anything, is held to a higher standard of behavior. It is not such that we have such great respect for the office that no matter what the behavior of its occupant, we must therefore respect its occupant because of the office. No, Tiger Woods you said being slick. Here he's being slick. We must respect the office, therefore that confers respect to the occupant. Tiger, is that what you're saying? If that's what you're saying, that is a stupid comment. I don't even know if he believes that that's what he's saying.
First of all, we don't know.
You know, Lisa, Graham, when he set this up, he said, you know, that these people are being forced to give their personal opinions about Donald Trump, and I think you're wrong about that, Graham. And that's where you see this anger. What they're asked to do is give the new religious genuflection, and the genuflection is, of course, you know, Trump is evil, and now we can move along to discussing golf or recipes or whatever else is in the air. And that's part of this religion that they've demanded that everybody join. And you can't just be somebody who wants to play golf or do whatever anybody may do. You have to also subscribe to this religion. And just like Sharia law, I reject it. I think it's a horrible thing.
I think they thought they had a slam dunk that Tiger was going to say something horrible because, you know, he's black. And, but he wasn't monkeying around. Nope. He said what he wanted to say. And yeah, I'm a horrible person for saying that. But anyway, I think they thought it was a slam dunk, which makes them even more mad when they don't get what they want. Tantrums.
Cablinasian lives matter too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Tiger Woods is a sharp guy, and I think he played that off. No pun, that wasn't a golf pun. I think he played that off very well. But yes, Scott, you are right. I was slightly in error when I said that these people are forced to give their opinion of Donald Trump. That's not true. Indeed, as you said, they are forced to say something bad about Donald Trump. And if they refuse to, then it is, as this guy on CNN said, it is, what did he describe it as? A thoughtless statement. Really? A thoughtless statement? Just simply to choose to remain apolitical in that moment and say that you have to respect the office of president. You know, as I mentioned before, that's all we heard for 8 years during Obama. I remember that. I remember one famous little clip. I believe it was from Fox News. It may have even been Jesse Waters, I think. And he was at some red carpet event, and this was back when Waters was not as famous as he is now, and he was then a minion for Bill O'Reilly. But George Clooney was walking past, and he collared George Clooney, and he asked him a question about the then President Obama, and Waters actually didn't use the term President Obama; he just said Obama, and I remember that George Clooney turned on him and said, don't call him Obama. He's the president. He's President Obama. So, you know, they insisted on this worship, this putting the president on a pedestal when it was their president. And now they think somehow it's outrageous that you would even suggest that one should respect the president of the United States. It's insane.
Listening to that guy from ESPN, I'm reminded of the Shakespeare line, "Dost thee protest too much?" And
you know, another thing that people may not know about ESPN, I'll just shoehorn this fact in, their subscription numbers have been on a massive decline for years now, to the point where it's a real crisis point for the network. And it all coincided with their turn deep into politics. Now, it's leftist politics, but I would suggest it shouldn't be either way. It shouldn't be right or left. I'm not arguing.
It should be sports.
Or libertarianish, which, of course, would be my personal preference for all of them to be. But I just want them to, just shut up and sing, right? Let's hear this. I mean, that's even less appropriate when it comes to sports. I mean, singing, you could say, well, they're political songs. There shouldn't be political basketball or football games, though, I think.
All right, Scott, have we saved the best for last? What do you got for us?
Actually, I think probably the Tiger one was the best. This is, John Brennan got his security clearance revoked by the president last week, and he has been hoisted on a cross and sort of venerated by the left and deified for it. And well, this is just more of the same. He's doing it for all of us, I think, is the thing to think about.
All right, let me run the clip.
You referenced that Senator McCain did sometimes pay a political price for being a kind of straight talker. Mm-hmm. Does that sound familiar to you, somebody who has sometimes paid a political price for being a straight talker? So with McCain gone, who replaces him as the person on Capitol Hill who is a Republican who can serve as a check on the president, or at least the voice of a check on the president?
That's a great question. And we see that Senators Flake and Corker have spoken out, but they are leaving the Senate. Right. I'd like to think that there are going to be senators now who are going to be thinking about Senator McCain's legacy and what he stood for, and to adopt some of the very same principled positions and speak truth to power. It's not just the intelligence community. It needs to be members of Congress who are going to speak truth to power, especially in this White House today.
I love the way that woman threw him softball after softball.
Well, that manipulation part of it, I think, is actually the great takeaway, Lisa. And what I take away when I listen to that clip is, I think, why do we know John McCain's name so well and Brennan's name so well, and the few senators and representatives remember, there are 535 members of Congress when all the seats are full. Why are so few on the news, on the talk shows, the cable news shows? And it's because those people are generally saying the things that the people who produce those shows want them to say from that perspective. So that the reason why Senator McCain gets to go on TV all the time when he did was because he's going to dump on back when he started, President Bush or President Trump. That's why he gets picked rather than the other senators who, how many senators do you think you could name? A dozen, maybe? Where are the other ones? Why don't we see them every night on the news like this? It's not because they don't want the opportunity to be on the news, for sure. Dare you get between a politician and a camera, right? It's because they're saying the words that they want to hear. And so that's what John Brennan's doing. He's no hero. He's on NBC and MSNBC and everywhere else because he's saying the things that they want. If he said that Trump was a great patriot and Russia collusion was bunk, he would be, nowhere to be found.
Where was he speaking truth to power when Obama was in office?
He was helping steal Americans' personal information and lying about it to Congress, I think, if I recall correctly.
John Brennan, to me, is the Nellie Olson of Little House on the Prairie. I mean, he's got the same sour expression, the same sour demeanor. He's mad because he's not in power, and he's mad because he's been stripped of any future sit-downs with the big boys, because really, what does he have to offer besides that Nellie Olson sourpuss face?
Graham.
Well, I learned something today. I didn't know that Nellie Olson had a security clearance, but I don't know. I can't really. It's hard for me to say anything about John Brennan, the communist, because there may be children watching. I mean, the sanctimonious attitude of people like Jim Comey and Andrew McCabe and John Brennan and Clapper. They're all the same, and quite frankly, they just make me sick. It's just I'm tired of even seeing his face or hearing his voice, quite frankly.
Well, thank you all for joining us for our first edition of Crazy Clips, loony things said by the left this week. I'm Lisa K. Donner for Scott Cosenza, Sarah Cowgill, and Graham J. Noble. Have a great week.
Visit us at libertynation.com.